All right, I've heard you. There's been quite a few suggestions and quite a few comments over the past year or two. You want help making an RTS? Well, if you want to make an RTS, or really any game for that matter, the first thing you should be looking at is a game design document. If you want to take your game seriously, this is what you should be creating first off. This is going to give you direction, objectives, things to keep in mind all throughout your journey. Now, a game design document can change over time, and they can only they provide so much information. You can then branch off into the audio document, an art document, and so on. They can just keep branching off into each of their own specialized sections, I guess you could say. And it could be easy to go ahead and waste plenty of time with many pages. Here we're going to be using a simple one-page design here to go ahead and get all of our main factors written out. Now, if you're going to make your own RTS, then by all means fill all this stuff out with your own information. This is just one idea. I've had a structure your set, and I will preface this by saying I did not design this document. I created it, but I did not design it. Someone else designed it. I just went ahead and recreated it instead of downloading it. Alright. So, a game design document, what is it really? Well, it's the big plan for making your video game, right? It's the big picture guy, I guess you can say. And then all the other detailed documents is where all the small, the hows of everything gets discussed. Wow, why did I say discussed? Anyways, it covers everything from our basic idea of the game to how it's going to look and play. Really, so let's get down to it. Obviously, if we're going to start at the beginning, the first thing we have here, if I pull this up, is our title. Now, your title obviously can be whatever you want. I'm going to come on in here. And evidently that should be up top. Alright, and you can come in and you can, if you have a name for your game, you can go ahead and put it in there. I'm just going to call it my RTS game. Obviously, I have no idea what this is going to be. I also have no intention of really releasing this, but maybe you guys would. So you have a title. The title section obviously is for your game. Now, the right-hand section that we have in this little box, this is your quick overview. If someone were to maybe only have time to look at it for a couple seconds, I'd really look at a more in-depth version of your game. This is going to give us your general idea. So obviously platform, what platforms are you going to release on? What price point are you looking to sell it at? What is the average playtime that you expect from a user? The age rating, and the age rating is important because, for example, if you're making a shooter, if you have the rating set as E for everyone, and we know it's a shooter game, you're going to have a very different idea that comes to mind compared to if the age rating was M for mature. Right? You're going to have two completely different ideas, two completely different visions that come to your mind. And then the planned release, obviously you're never going to know the exact day, but this is where you put in your Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, as well as the year. And if you don't know what these Qs are, maybe it's your first time hearing this, these are the quarters. So quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. There are 4 quarters in a year. 1 year is 12 months. Split that into 4. Each quarter is 3 months. So quarter 1 is January, February, March. Quarter 2, April, May, June. quarter 3, July, August, September, and quarter 4, October, November, December. So this will give you a 3-month window as to your planned release. So that should at least give you a better idea as to when it's going to release, without promising maybe, oh, it's going to release in November, but then some things come up, some things happen, you have setbacks, bugs pop up, whatever, and you can't release until maybe end of December. This kind of gives you that bit of a buffer if something like that was more of your case. Right, so once you have an idea of what it is you're gonna put in here, it should look something like this. Now, obviously, if you're going to support console, you can go ahead and list those as well on your platforms. Price, that's probably good to at least have a US price in there as well. Even if you want to go ahead and list your own local currency. Playtime, again, this is average. You never really know, but you can kind of guesstimate as you go. Age rating, I just went with T for teen. Just kind of go right down the middle, because obviously you could go for more mature aspects into your RTS, or you could really keep it super clean and kid friendly and go with an E for everyone approach. So that's obviously going to be completely up to you guys and what you want to do. So I just went and broke it down the middle. And planned release, I just threw Q2 in there just because I don't think we're going to be done going through this until at least sometime in Q2. Q1 is going to end in March, and I think we're going to be, well, I think it's going to be past March, or at least March. January, February, March, right, the order. I think it's going to be sometime in April, May, June that we're actually going to finish going through this. I could be wrong, but I'm just taking a guess there. All right. Now, the pitch. What is the pitch? Well, the pitch is, this is what you would throw at, say, a publisher, for example, to kind of like describe your game. But not only do we want to put it that way? No. We'll save publisher for another time. The pitch, we're going to describe it as, this is how you're going to describe your game in 2 to 3 sentences to, if somebody asked, what are you working on? And the 3 questions that you should be able to answer in these 2 to 3 sentences is, what is the genre? What does the player do? And why should they play your game? So there's 3 questions that you should answer in your pitch. And if anybody asks you what your game is, what are you working on, this is the answer you're going to give them. Alright, so obviously I have no idea what this game is going to be, but just throwing something in there to give you guys an idea. We could have a pitch something like, my game is a real-time strategy where the player takes command of an interstellar fleet, navigating through a treacherous galaxy, managing resources, forging alliances, and engaging in intense tactical battles to dominate rival factions and conquer the universe. Now, if I were to tell you that, you already have everything that you need to know. Right, so we're answering all 3 questions that we had going in. Right, so we're answering, what is the genre? It's a real-time strategy. What is the player doing? The player is taking command of a fleet, navigating through the galaxy, managing resources, forging alliances, and engaging in battles. And why should the user play the game? Well, I mean, we kind of just listed quite a few reasons right there with what the player has to do. So we kind of got these battles going on, as well as, from the sounds of it, forging alliances, Means maybe we got some kind of political aspect going in there while also having to manage the resources. You got a lot of things to juggle around there, so maybe that's one person's type of game, maybe it's not. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into, oh boy, mechanics. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into mechanics. Alright, so the mechanics section here, this is going to be your base set, I would say, your core features for your game to be running and to have the game that you have, right? So we're almost talking like I don't want to say like an MVP, right? A minimal viable product, but this is the core of your game. And I'm going to fill out a few things here, and hopefully that'll give you an idea of what I'm referring to. Alright, so hopefully these kind of give you an idea of... Whoops. That's not what I want. No, I want to click that so I can group this up. But this, hopefully that gives you an idea of the kind of things I'm referring to here. So mechanics are going to be like your core things to the game. So for an RTS, the kind of core that we're looking for is like base building, unit production, resource management, maybe research in order to discover new tech, to build new things. In our case of based on the pitch up top, we're going to have things like diplomacy and alliances. We're going to have combat. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the kind of things to put down in your mechanics section. Oh boy, story. Now, what do you do if you have a story? What if you don't have a story? Well, if you have a story, we'll tackle that first since that's easier. If you have a story, go ahead and put down the Cliff Notes version of your narrative story here. And if you do not have a narrative story, then what you want to put down is things that allow your player to, I guess you could say, discover the world around. So that could be different races, species. Maybe you can talk a little bit of the politics if you have that in there. The type of governing system or systems that may be involved. Things like that. Things that really flesh out your world to tell an overall story, even if you do not have a narrative to tell. Right, so to list a few things, if you do not have a story, or at least a narrative story, then some things that might help your player discover a world, or the world around them that they're playing. Maybe alien factions, ruins, relics, anomalies, dynamic world events, interstellar wildlife. Again, this is based off the fact that we're exploring the galaxy as we go around in this made-up game here. Alright, unique selling points. Now, this is where we're kind of getting into the marketing aspect of our game, because these are the points that, these are basically your selling points. So this is where, if you were going to a publisher, these are the points that you're going to make sure to bring up. Now, if you're old enough to have experienced purchasing physical games in person in the past, all right, so if you were looking at, if you're old enough to remember if these old physical media for games that you were purchasing, this back here is covered in your unique selling points. All right, so we're looking at the action-packed story, exclusive new cinematic scenes, because we're looking at Ninja Gaiden Black, which I believe was a remake version or a remastered version of the first Ninja Gaiden. So exclusive new cinematic scenes, it's kind of a good selling point, because anyone that's played the old games now has a reason to play this one, because now we have something new being brought back to them, right? It's not just recycled old things. We have bonus content, unlock the original arcade version of Ninja Gaiden, plus new costumes and more. So fantastic. We have additional content added to it, not just new cinematic scenes, right? Plus we can play the the original from the arcade. Well, that's kind of cool. And then we kind of have some little cliff notes here, right? So we have missions. Try hand at 50 all new missions. So we can see that we've got at least 50 different missions there. And we have challenges. Hurricane packs, whatever those are. And of course difficulty options, which I guess is a selling point back in these days. But nowadays, obviously, we wouldn't have these on the back of a case. Instead, these unique selling points will be all over your Steam page. Alright, so if we were to come and take a look at, let me just center that a bit more there. World Stone Chronicles, which is yet to release. If we come down, they do have a demo if you want to check that out. But if we come down, we can see we have a little description about the game. So this is almost going to be like your pitch. And then we have a breakdown of what your unique selling points would be, right? So we're talking about the class system with subclasses, multiple party members. We're looking at the abilities and talents, the combat design, shaping your own story. So we've got some decisions that are going to affect the story in some way. We can explore a massive world. So there's another selling point. So if you like open world, you're being told this is a big one that you have to explore, which is fantastic. So instead of putting them on the back of a case, your unique selling points are now going to be used on your Steam page. Or if you go to Epic, your Epic page, you know, you get it, right? The points that you're going to put on your product page, right? So some ideas that you might have for your RTS, as far as the unique selling points, maybe you have a dynamic galactic sandbox. In this case, remember, because we are in a galaxy. Adaptive AI, extensive customization, maybe of the things you're creating or your character, your avatar, whatever. Maybe you have some seamless multiplayer where people can just drop in, right, join and drop out at any point. Multi-layered strategy. All depends on how deep you're going to go into your combat portion of your game, but that'll give you some ideas that you want to put in for your unique selling points. Alright, your objectives. Your objectives is going to be your end goal. Right? Ultimately, your end goal. Now, if you have a narrative, you're probably going to have multiple objectives that are ultimately listed out here. So, if I was looking at something like Legend of Dragoon, maybe I've got 2 main objectives per disc. And I say per disc because this was a 4-disc game back on the PlayStation 1. But yeah, maybe I have 1 to 2 objectives per disc that I'm trying to achieve. Maybe more. Now, if you don't have a narrative, something that's strongly narrative driven, then you may just have just 1 or 2 ultimate goals. So in Factorio, you're looking at building a rocket. In Minecraft, you're looking at defeating the Ender Dragon and getting to the end. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that your game has to end at this point, right? Because if your game can continue on past this objective, it doesn't mean that it can't be your objective. So if we take a look at something like The Forest, at the end of The Forest, you have a decision to make. One decision will be the end of the game, and you cannot continue your save file past that. That's one ending. But if you choose to go with the other decision at that end objective, then you're able to keep playing even though you've already completed that end goal of the project or of that game, right? So this is going to be ultimately your end goal of your player. What is it that they're trying to aim for in your game? Are they trying to build something? Are they trying to we have politics here. Maybe they're trying to achieve world peace. between everybody, and nobody is able to agree with each other. Is your objective maybe to completely conquer the planet, or maybe all the planets in that galaxy? I don't know. These are things that you're gonna have to tell me. So your objectives is gonna look something like this. Now I went ahead and went with the galactic dominance here. So I have my objective listed, and since I only have one end objective here for this RTS, I went ahead and I added a description into it. So the ultimate objective of the game is to establish your faction as the undisputed ruler of the galaxy. To achieve this, players must expand their influence across the stars, conquering rival factions, forging powerful alliances, and mastering both diplomacy and warfare. By strategically managing resources, technology, and military forces, players aim to control key sectors, planets, and strategic resources, solidifying their grip on the galaxy and securing their place in history as the supreme power of the cosmos. Alright, so we have an idea, we have an end goal, we have a description of what that end goal means for us, and the only thing left here is art. Now obviously your game doesn't exist, so you don't have screenshots to put here, but things you can put here are maybe concept sketches, or maybe other games that look like the art style you're trying to go for, or maybe a game that has given you inspiration for the one that you want to create, to kind of give some idea. This way, if someone were to look at it, they have a visual idea that they can imagine to go along with everything else that you have provided here. But all of that is a game design document, and if you're going to be serious about creating a game, this is something that you should consider doing. Alright, so here on screen here, you're seeing a buddy of mine. He's been working on his game for many years now as a solo developer. He has paid and outsourced some things, but for the most part, he's just been a pure solo developer creating the game that he wants to create. And you can see here that even as a solo developer, he had some kind of design document in mind, right? So you can see here, based on his response, that it started off, he just had some chicken scratch, and then that actually morphed into an actual document of some sort. And at this point, it's branched out to many different things. And as he says here, it's changed a lot, except for the combat. And that's the thing. Your design document, it doesn't have to stay the same as the first day that you wrote it. It can change over time. And it probably will change over time. You might look at something and decide that a specific mechanic or feature doesn't work with what the game has become. So maybe you gotta scrap it completely, or completely redesign a new system to accommodate that feature, so it's not the way you intended it to go initially. But he's been working on his game for a long time, and we've already seen it here on the screen here. We've already seen that here with World Stone Chronicles. Alright, so this is the game that we were looking at earlier when we were talking about unique selling points. And this is his game. This is what he's been working on. If you're interested, you can go ahead and you can check out the demo for the game. And if you're interested in maybe asking more questions about game development, what it's really like to actually develop a large game, not just something that's small like a tech demo, and not something that's, I don't want to necessarily talk down against any YouTuber, because of course at the end of the day, when you're doing a YouTube video, usually going to make it more entertaining, and the visuals are going to be more important. Whereas when you're more of a developer, the back end things start to become more important, if that makes sense. Whereas on the surface, nothing could look like it really changed, but a lot of things may have changed. You just can't see it. But if you want to ask some questions to someone who's been working on the same game for years, go ahead and check Scott out here. I'll go ahead and leave a link here in the description to his channel, as well as over to his Twitch channel. So if you want to go over there, hand him a follow, maybe throw a subscription either on Twitch or on YouTube. Go ahead, ask him questions. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer some of your game dev questions. And with that, take care. Have yourselves a good one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.